Hey Marco,
Oh, hey Faye.
look at this nice rock I found going through my collection.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's actually the crystallization of a magma of an underwater volcano.
Oh, nice. And what are these things? They're golden.
Yeah, so these are sulfide minerals. They're pyrite and chalcopyrite, and they're made of iron, sulfur, and copper.
Oh, nice. Did you say sulfur and copper?
Yeah.
Did you know that we actually have them in our body?
What? Really?
Yeah, it's cool, right?
Cool.
I bet you didn't know it, but many strange elements are not only present in our cells, most of them are even crucial for our body to function properly. Let's zoom inside one of our cells and look at them in more details. Sulfur is the third most common micronutrient in our body. It is present in most proteins, here represented by the blue string, and it helps to give them the stable and proper structure. As you can see, sulfur is present in the protein and helps it to fold the string into a three-dimensional shape. This means that without sulfur, some proteins wouldn't be able to properly assemble and do their function. Copper, on the other hand, behaves as an activator. It finds and sits in specific places on a protein, and it gives the protein the ability to do chemical reactions. Copper-dependent proteins have very diverse and important functions. Some of them include respiration to get the energy from your food, proper contractions of the heart muscles, and even the proper activity of your immunitary system.
Okay, interesting. But then we talk about copper and sulfur inside our cells and in the rocks, but how do they go from the rocks to us?
Well, usually, as far as I know, we absorb them through eating plants, like beans and mushrooms. They're very rich in sulfur and copper. And even if we don't eat those plants, we can usually eat animals that do eat the plants, and that's how we can absorb them.
So we eat the plants that are rich in these elements. However, the plants themselves do not produce sulfur and copper. They extract the nutrients from their surroundings through their roots. The roots of the plants will feed on the soil that's around them, absorbing most of the elements they need to survive. And this soil is actually decomposed rocks from the past. This decomposition occurs when rocks are exposed to the surface by erosion or even below the ground by the action of water, roots, and other organisms. The weathering and decomposition processes slowly turn the rock into soil. After this, the nutrients are more easily available and can be absorbed by plants. See, we all depend on those nutrients released from decomposed rocks. Of course, many rocks have sulfur and copper in their composition, but these are most commonly found in volcanic rocks. Actually, the largest volume of volcanism on Earth occurs underwater in the zones called the mid-ocean ridges. Here you can see an example of these, in the center of the Atlantic Ocean between Africa, Europe, and the Americas. These are huge mountain ranges at the bottom of the ocean. These mountain ranges are places where the ocean floor is spreading out. Because of this, the rocks below end up melting and the generated magma comes out of fissures at the ground. This creates the underwater volcanoes in the mid-ocean ridges. The sample that I showed you before comes from this kind of setting. So when the magma comes out from fissures and the magma starts to erupt, or even because of the circulation of water in some cracks in the rocks, the ocean water will start to heat up and will extract some of the elements from the surrounding rocks. When this hot water, rich in metals and other elements, gets in contact with the cold ocean water, the elements that it was carrying start to precipitate, and this forms these hydrothermal vents, also known as black smokers. These vents start spitting hot smoke and water into depths, and this is not a very cozy environment. Temperatures can reach up to 350 degrees Celsius, and a lot of toxic elements are being constantly released. Surprisingly, there are a lot of organisms such as bacteria, algae, and small animals living and feeding in there.
Okay, but now I'm wondering how they can survive in such extreme environments. But in one kind of a way, they seem to depend on these elements to live and thrive at that place.
Yes and no. Actually, it seems that in those conditions, they use these elements like sulfur and copper to catalyze reactions for producing their own food. That's how these bacteria and other organisms can survive. Actually, there is one theory on the origin of life that seems to say that all life originated in these vents, thanks to these bacteria that could use these elements to produce their food. And that's exactly how this dependency on these elements carried all the way, because of our evolution, all the way to us.
To sum up, we showed you how sulfur and copper produced by geodynamic processes are also necessary for living organisms, since they're used in many biochemical reactions.
As you have seen, many of these elements present in rocks are very useful for us and many other organisms. And we hope that we showed you that different branches of science collaborate in and outside our own bodies.